Welcome to episode 2 of Street Fighter Stories, a series that delves into the lore behind the Street Fighter games. Last time we looked at the first game and learned how a young warrior named Ryu entered Sagat's World Warrior Tournament and defeated the Muay Thai champion by tapping into a dark force known as the Satsui no Hado. The next logical place to go with our story may seem like Street Fighter 2. However, although it was the next game released in the series, it's not the next part of the story chronologically. The Street Fighter Alpha series, which was released after Street Fighter 2, takes place in the time between Sagat's tournament and the one organised by M. Bison. The first Alpha game was officially overruled by Alpha 2, which Capcom have stated is a remake of the first game rather than events that happened after it. There we have it then, the next step in our journey is Street Fighter Alpha 2. When we looked at the first game, we went through the roster character by character, exploring the story, or total lack of story, behind each one. That's difficult to do with an Alpha game. Unlike Street Fighter 1 and 2, the Alpha series does not revolve around a fighting tournament. Instead, the warriors are just wandering around, going about their business, crossing paths with each other all over the place, and getting into lots of fights. This means that many of the stories end up intertwined, and you can't talk about one character without having to mention lots of others. What we're going to do instead is focus on a particular theme each episode and explore the characters linked by that common thread. Today's story is about Ansatsuken. After winning the first tournament, Ryu returned home to tell his master Gouken of his victory and to seek answers about the dark power that had overwhelmed him when he fought Sagat. Gouken is also Ryu's adoptive father, after he found the young child abandoned and decided to take him in. Ryu was trained alongside Gouken's other pupil at the time. A wealthy American friend of Gouken's had decided that his son needed a bit of an attitude adjustment, and that martial arts training would be just the ticket to sort him out. This young American student was Ken, the other playable character from Street Fighter 1. As we mentioned briefly last time, Ken did not enter Sagat's tournament, but was at the time competing in the US martial arts tournament instead, and winning. So both students head back to their master's dojo, eager to inform him of their victory in martial arts tournaments. Ken is in time to witness the end of a fight between Akuma and Gouken, in which Gouken is apparently slain. I have to add apparently because of Street Fighter 4. For a long time it was official law that Gouken had died, but in the latest game, which happens between Street Fighter 2 and 3 in the chronology, he appears alive and playable, with Capcom providing a story of how he'd survived Akuma's attack. Gouken was, in any case, dead looking enough for Ryu and Ken to mourn his passing. The man who attacked Gouken was his own brother, Akuma. The two of them were trained in a style of martial arts that is rooted in Ansatsuken, the assassination arts, martial arts designed for killing opponents. In the Western translations of the games, the fighting style is called Shotokan. This is a fairly well-known style of karate, but it bears no real similarity to the style Ryu, Ken, Akuma and Gouken actually use. In this series, we'll refer to the fighting style as Ansatsuken. The brothers, Akuma and Gouken, were both taught Ansatsuken by a common master, a man named Goutetsu. The only time we ever see Goutetsu feature in a game is during Akuma's ending sequence for Street Fighter Alpha 1. Despite sharing a common master, his pupils each chose a different path to walk. Whilst Gouken sought to develop a variation of the style without the murderous killing intent, Akuma believed that this Satsui no Hado was the key to the style's true power, and the others were fools for not recognizing it. Akuma killed Goutetsu and later made an attempt on Gouken's life too. Gouken defeated Akuma but refused to kill him. Unfortunately for Gouken, Akuma then returned years later and was victorious that time round. As for the meaning of the phrase, Satsui no Hado, it translates roughly to wave of killing intent. It's a powerful urge to kill opponents and do whatever it takes to win a battle that can come upon practitioners of Ansatsuken. Akuma's name means demon in Japanese, but in the Japanese versions of the games he was called Gouki instead. The Western name sort of plays up his demonic evil side, but it's worth noting that Akuma is not necessarily evil, he just follows a rather different code of honour to most people. For Akuma, defeating strong opponents in battle is the ultimate purpose of life, and he sees killing his opponents as a perfectly valid way of achieving this. As we'll see later, he takes pleasure not from the kill but from the battle well fought, and has at times even refused to continue a fight because he did not feel his opponent was a worthy challenge. Most practitioners of Ansatsuken have a similar moveset, including a fireball, a jumping uppercut, and a spinning aerial kick. Akuma is the only Ansatsuken fighter to have mastered a fourth technique, Shungoku Satsu. Well, Goutetsu could use it too, but then Akuma killed him with it. The Shungoku Satsu is sort of the ultimate killing technique in the style. Its translation is something like instant hell murder, though my personal favourite translation is in Street Fighter EX, where the move is called the Prison Killer. This move works by literally dragging your opponent to hell, whereupon they are attacked by demons. Kinda powerful. In terms of the games, this is Akuma's signature light punch forward, light kick hard punch super combo. The killing urge that Akuma wields and Gouken shuns is what took control of Ryu during his fight with Sagat. After finding Gouken apparently dead, Ryu senses Akuma's energy at the scene and sets out to find this warrior who may be able to explain to him what had happened during his battle with Sagat. When he does track Akuma down and fight him, Akuma is somewhat impressed but does not consider Ryu a worthwhile opponent yet. Although he could probably easily have killed Ryu, Akuma instead tells him to embrace the Satsui no Hado and then come back for a true fight. Also, you know how it was pretty badass when Joe punched through that wall at the start of Street Fighter 1? Yeah, well in Alpha 2, Akuma punches an island so hard that it sinks. Eat that, Joe. Whilst Ryu was in search of Akuma, Ken is out searching for Ryu, and eventually finds him angry and confused after the fight with Akuma. At the beginning of the fight, Ryu boasts about defeating Sagat, a clear sign that he's being manipulated by the Satsui no Hado, as his victory over Sagat was anything but sporting, and certainly nothing he would usually brag about. The two friends fight, and Ken defeats Ryu. He tells Ryu to snap out of it, and gives him his red headband as a reminder of their friendship and rivalry, and that fighting is not all about power and revenge, and other such excellent life lessons. For some reason, Ryu chooses not to actually put their headband on until after the events of the Alpha series have finished, so he's still wearing his white one in Alpha 3, but he's wearing the red one in Street Fighter 2. The reason behind this is probably because Capcom couldn't be bothered to redraw the sprites for the third Alpha game. In the ending sequences for Alpha 1 and 2, Ken is shown with his future wife, Eliza. Official story states that he met her during the tournament he was off winning at the time of Street Fighter 1. The last character we'll look at in this episode is another of our friends from the first game, Gen. Once a full-time contract killer, Gen had basically retired to run a restaurant. He then learns that he's suffering from an incurable terminal disease, which the internet says is leukemia, though I'm not sure of the original source that states what his disease is, so if anyone watching does, please let me know. Gen is distressed by the idea of an illness being the thing to kill him, and decides that he wants to die a warrior's death, bested by a mighty opponent. We'll be talking more about Shadaloo in our next episode, but for now, let's just say it's a powerful organisation headed by M. Bison. To fund all of Bison's unusual hobbies like creating clones, stealing people's bodies and making capes vanish when he throws them to the ground, he decided that organised crime was a great way of making some quick cash. So Shadaloo is involved in all sorts of shady stuff. Arms dealing, drug smuggling, mobile phone games with tons of in-app purchases, nasty stuff. Gen decides that a good way to get himself killed would be to start randomly beating up members of Shadaloo in the hope that he'll eventually find someone sufficiently strong to kill him. That doesn't really work out and Gen just kicks everyone's ass. Whilst he's doing this, he learns of Akuma and decides to go off and challenge him. Gen's martial art style is actually another killing art, or Ansatsuken, although it's totally different in execution from the Goutetsu descended styles. Akuma unleashes the Shungoku Satsu on Gen, and Gen attacks Akuma with his own ultimate killing move, but both survive. Gen survives the trip to hell in a similar way to how Gouken is later revealed to have done. He empties his mind and spirit in such a way that he becomes impervious to the attack. I wouldn't recommend trying it at home. During the fight, as they're both hitting each other with all they've got, Akuma realises that Gen is suffering from an illness and refuses to continue the fight. The fact that Gen has been weakened by the disease means that Akuma doesn't consider beating him to be a fair victory, and so both men walk away from the encounter. That is the end of our first episode looking into Street Fighter Alpha 2. There's still plenty to cover, so see you next time when we'll be talking about Gouken's other student who studied with him before Ryu and Ken. Know who I'm talking about? If you're enjoying this series, please do like and subscribe and help us share it around. Thanks for watching!